Yesterday, the Mexican Congress held their first ever UFO hearing in which two alleged non-human bodies were brought on stage, as well as an accompanying presentation of the scientific findings. Among other revelations, as always, we're going to cover the context and the details that are most important, so let's dive right in. First, as always, just a little bit of global context. The UFO hearings in the Mexican Congress did not happen in a vacuum. There are several concurrent endeavors related to the UFO topic occurring within governments as well as science and academia. And even if you look just at this week alone, we got new revelations on Sunday about the US government's crash retrieval and reverse engineering program for UFOs. On Monday, NASA announced the possibility of signs of life that they discovered through James Webb Space Telescope on an exoplanet. We had the Mexican UFO congressional hearings yesterday, and Thursday NASA is announcing their new study program results as it pertains to how NASA can address the UAP issue here domestically. So again, this is happening in a larger contextual environment where several entities are beginning to take this issue very seriously. So let's look at why the Mexican congressional hearings happened and what was discussed. In the wake of a similar hearing held here in the United States at the end of July, the House of Deputies within the Mexican Congress decided to take it to the next level by hosting their own UFO hearing, but by also including a list of international witnesses from civilian to military pilots, air traffic controllers, scientists, as well as other representatives from other governments, with the goal of helping to better bring up to speed the existing representatives within the Mexican Congress to define, if at all, any new legislation and policy that they should implement as it pertains to what is now known as unidentified anomalous phenomena. The origins of this hearing can be tied directly to the efforts of Mexican journalist Jaime Maussan and his relationship to Representative Sergio Luna, who was the congressional rep that was able to put this hearing into motion. And some of you may recognize a few of the names of those asked to testify under oath, including Harvard professor and founder of the Galileo Project, Avi Loeb, as well as former military personnel from the United States, Ryan Graves and Robert Salas. Yes, I know, I've seen everyone's comments, I'm getting all your DMs, I know you want me to talk about bodies. So we're going to talk about bodies. Let's remember why this hearing happened in the first place, though. The Mexican Congress wanted to decide, based on hearing testimony from subject matter experts, whether they needed to implement any new legislation or policy as it related to unidentified anomalous phenomenon, as they've seen other governments such as the US begin to discuss a policy approach, and they did not want to get caught with their pants down. So that was the initial entry point for why this hearing happened, which is why you had air traffic controllers, civilian and military pilots, as well as other scientists giving them that perspective. All right, let's roll tape.
Son seres no humanos que no son parte de nuestra evolución terrestre y que después de desaparecer no hay una evolución posterior. De acuerdo a la Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México, quien realizó los análisis de carbono 14, estos seres tienen alrededor de 1000 años de antigüedad. Es decir, no se trata de seres que fueron recuperados en naves, que son estrellamientos, sino son seres que estaban sepultados en minas de diatomea, tierra de diatomea. La diatomea es una alga fosilizada con 17 millones de antigüedad, es fitoplancton que abundaba en aquel tiempo y al desaparecer se fosilizó.
All right, so look, these are the moments that are the exact reason I created this channel. Remember, we already have credible allegations from multiple whistleblowers within the United States that the US government is in possession of non-human biologics. And it was at that time that we needed to start to have the conversation about what are the standards of evidence for us to verify the authenticity. Because by the time someone puts a body on the table, we are going to be flooded with a mountain of BS that we have to wade through, and it is already too late. So it's not hearsay anymore. There's no first-hand witnesses. None of that nonsense is operative anymore. We now need to operate on the evidence and proof that's been presented and see how we can verify the authenticity. So here's what they brought forward. The cadavers were discovered as a part of an archaeological dig that took place near Nazca, Peru in 2015. A total of 20 cadavers, almost all intact, were discovered at the time. 19 of those 20 were approximately 60 centimeters tall. One of those 20 was 1.7 meters tall. They all were tridactyl or had 3 fingers and elongated heads. At least 3 of the cadavers appeared to be gestating eggs, and 2 out of that initial set of 20 were the ones that were presented at the congressional hearing in Mexico yesterday. This is not the first time the public will have seen these bodies. Back in 2017, there were several research groups that were looking to verify their authenticity, including Gaia.com and the Alien Project, and even Stanford professor Gary Nolan was able to get his hands on one of the, quote, Nazca mummies, unquote, and determined in a peer-reviewed paper that it did appear to be human, but a deformed prenatal baby. It's really important to note that the key player in making these congressional hearings in Mexico happen, as well as the main presenter on stage when they brought the bodies out during the hearing, was journalist Jaime Maussan, who, let's just say, has a very checkered history when it comes to big claims about alien bodies and UFO sightings, and this is just a short reference list for some of those controversies. This is in contrast to what was probably the most interesting part of the body's presentation, which was the current director of the Science Institute for Health for the Mexican Navy discussing the robust studies that they've done and his determination that they appear to be non-human in origin. The team claimed they have performed a variety of forensic analysis, including X-rays, computer tomography, 3D reconstructions, macro and microscopic analysis, histology, carbon dating, forensic anthropology, as well as DNA analysis. So how can we verify any of this information? In our current environment, the recommended path would have been to submit a peer-reviewed paper that they then could have presented at the hearing, but they've chosen at this time not to do so for reasons that are unclear. They have released a 120 gigabyte data set of their DNA analysis, which has been the first thing that the community has grabbed onto to try to verify any of this information. And I will mention that they have also stated that they are open for other researchers to come in and verify their findings. And another important note about their current claim, they are actually not saying that at this time they have enough data and evidence to suggest that these bodies are extraterrestrial in origin, but they do believe that there is sufficient evidence and data to suggest that these bodies are non-human in origin or not from the same line of evolution as Homo sapiens. There are a few concerns and issues that have been brought up by geneticists as well as forensic analysts who have begun looking at the data that primarily revolve around the fears of contamination or cross-contamination with the samples and what was the chain of custody prior to analysis. There is such a massive amount of this DNA sequencing data that the current estimates are that it will take several months for a relatively sophisticated team to try to filter down that data to be able to get the signal within the noise to ascertain are the claims of non-human origin legitimate or not. So what does this all mean? Are they alien? Are they not alien? Are they kind of human? Are they non-human? Is this disclosure? All good questions, and the honest answer is nobody knows. People might have a feeling about the probability of it being true or not based on previous data that was available as it relates to these bodies specifically, but because of the presence of new available data and information, we at least have to give the opportunity for that to get vetted before we can make any conclusions. For me personally, as is the case with most claims of physical evidence of non-human origin, I remain skeptical, but I'm open-minded, and the presence of new data that can be looked at by a variety of institutions is a welcome change to the normal cloak and dagger secrecy that is associated with the physical evidence of non-human intelligence. And to all the US government personnel that are now keeping tabs on me, Mexico put the gauntlet down, and now bodies are a part of the conversation. So I suggest you come up with a plan for how you want to address it, because the rest of the world is going to if you don't move first.